had to learn how to live in a society where your life was devalued in an interesting sort of way.
Yeah. Of all the stars in Hollywood, he is one of the brightest. But for decades, Samuel L. Jackson carried a secret pain, a story of struggle against a system that never fully saw him. At 70, he finally broke his silence, revealing the shocking and sometimes dangerous truth of what it really means to be a black man in Hollywood. And what he said would change how we see his entire career. They still can't tell us apart. Even after more than 150 movies, even after becoming one of the highest-grossing actors of all time, Samuel L. Jackson still faces moments that remind him he is different. One of the most famous moments happened live on television. An entertainment reporter from KTLA, Sam Rubin, started asking him about his Super Bowl commercial. But Jackson didn't have a Super Bowl commercial that year. The reporter was thinking of another famous black actor, Lawrence Fishburne. Jackson did not let it slide. He looked straight at the reporter and said, "We don't all look alike." He explained that he was the "what's in your wallet" guy, not the car guy. He told the reporter that there is more than one black guy doing commercials. The moment was awkward and uncomfortable, but it showed the world a problem that black actors face every day. They are not seen as individuals. They are often mixed up with each other, as if their faces and talents are interchangeable. This wasn't just a simple mistake. It was a sign of a bigger problem in an industry that celebrates him but still puts him in a box. Imagine being that famous, that successful, and still having to tell a reporter that you are not the other black guy. It showed that no matter how many awards you win or how much money your movies make, some people will always see the color of your skin first. Jackson's calm but firm correction was not just for him. It was for every black actor who had ever been mistaken for someone else. But this public mix-up was nothing compared to the more dangerous encounters he had faced long before the world knew his name. One incident in particular happened while he was making the very movie that would make him a superstar. Way to Stardom. The year was 1994. Jackson was filming Pulp Fiction, the movie that would earn him an Oscar nomination and make him a household name. He was playing Jules Winfield, a cool, confident hitman. But outside the movie set, his reality was very different. One night after a long day of filming, he and a few friends decided to see a play. They were all black. As they left the restaurant where they had eaten dinner, 5 police cars suddenly surrounded them. The officers slammed them against their cars, with lights shining in their faces. They were forced to lie face down on the wet pavement. The police believed they were a group of people who had just committed a robbery nearby. They saw a group of black men and immediately assumed they were criminals. Jackson tried to explain that he was an actor, that he was filming a movie. But they did not listen. For a moment, he was not Samuel L. Jackson, the rising star. He was just another black man being treated like a suspect. He has said that this kind of thing happens to him all the time. The police often pull him over for no reason, just to see who he is. They ask him what he is doing in a certain neighborhood, as if he does not belong there. This incident during Pulp Fiction was a painful reminder that his fame did not protect him. It showed him that the character he played on screen, a powerful man who was in control, was the opposite of how he was treated in real life. This was not a new feeling for him. The fear and anger he felt on that pavement were emotions he had known since he was a young boy, long before he ever dreamed of Hollywood. To understand why he speaks out so forcefully, you have to go back to where it all began. A childhood in the segregated South, Samuel L. Jackson was born in Washington, D.C. in 1948, but he grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee. This was the time of segregation. Black people and white people lived in separate worlds. They went to different schools, drank from different water fountains, and sat in different parts of the bus. Jackson's world was entirely black. He went to a black school, lived in a black neighborhood, and went to black movie theaters. He was raised by his mother, Elizabeth, and his grandparents. His father lived in another city and was not a part of his life. Jackson only met him twice, Growing up without a father left a deep mark on him. His mother worked hard in a factory and later as a supplies buyer for a mental institution. His grandparents provided a stable and loving home. But outside their home, the world was not a kind place. From a young age, Jackson learned the rules of segregation. He knew which places he could go and which places were for whites only. This experience of being treated as less than human just because of his skin color planted a seed of anger and a desire for justice inside him. He was a smart kid, but he had a bad stutter. For years, he barely spoke. Acting in school plays helped him find his voice. On stage, the stutter would disappear. It was the first sign that performing could be a way for him to express the powerful feelings he kept inside. But he never forgot the world he lived in. The injustice he saw every day in Chattanooga shaped the man he would become. He was learning to be tough, to be aware, and to be ready to fight for his rights. This fighting spirit would soon take him from the quiet streets of Tennessee to the front lines of a national movement. From actor to activist. When Jackson left for college in 1966, he chose a place that was at the heart of the civil rights movement, Morehouse College in Atlanta. Morehouse was a famous all-male, historically black college. It was the same school Martin Luther King Jr. had attended. Jackson arrived with dreams of becoming a marine biologist, but the world around him was changing fast. The fight for civil rights was everywhere, and he could not ignore it. He changed his major to architecture before finally finding his true passion in drama. But his most important education was happening outside the classroom. He saw the protests, heard the speeches, and felt the energy of a generation demanding change. Then, in 1968, something happened that changed him forever. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Jackson was in Atlanta at the time and even served as an usher at his funeral. Seeing the great leader lying in his casket filled Jackson with a new kind of anger. He felt that the peaceful approach of Dr. King was no longer enough. He and his friends at Morehouse wanted more direct action. They wanted changes at their own school. They felt the curriculum did not teach them enough about black history and culture. They also wanted more black people on the board of trustees. In 1969, they decided to do something drastic. Jackson and a group of other students held several members of the Morehouse Board of Trustees hostage in a building for 2 days. One of the men they held was Martin Luther King Sr., Dr. King's own father. They did not harm anyone. They just wanted to force the school to listen to their demands. The school agreed to make changes, but there were consequences. Jackson was found guilty of unlawful confinement and was suspended from Morehouse for 2 years. This event pushed him further into the Black Power movement. The FBI even came to his mother's house and warned her that her son was getting involved with dangerous people. They told her that if he did not leave Atlanta, he would likely be dead within a year. Fearing for his life, his mother sent him a one-way ticket to Los Angeles. His time as a student activist was over, but the fire it lit inside him would never go out. The new fight in Hollywood. When Jackson arrived in Los Angeles, he was a changed man. He had seen the front lines of the struggle for black liberation. Now he was in a new city, trying to make it as an actor. But he soon found that Hollywood had its own kind of segregation. The roles available for black actors were limited. They were often stereotypes: the criminal, the servant, or the funny sidekick. Jackson had to fight for every part, and he refused to take roles that he felt were demeaning. He moved to New York City in 1976 and spent years working in theater. He met and married the love of his life, actress LaTanya Richardson. He also became close friends with another young actor who shared his passion and frustration, Morgan Freeman. Together, they navigated the difficult world of theater and film, always looking for roles that had dignity and depth. It was during this time that he met a young filmmaker who would change the course of his career, Spike Lee. Spike Lee was making movies that told stories about the black experience in a way no one had ever seen before. Jackson appeared in some of Lee's early films, like School Days and Do the Right Thing. These roles were small, but they were in movies that mattered. They were about something. In 1991, Lee gave him a role that would make everyone take notice. He played Gator Purify, a crack addict, in the movie Jungle Fever. The performance was so powerful and so real that it shocked audiences. To prepare for the role, Jackson drew on his own personal demons. For years, he had been struggling with his own addiction to drugs and alcohol. It was a dark time in his life, a secret he kept hidden from the world. His addiction was costing him jobs and straining his marriage. Just 2 weeks before filming Jungle Fever, his wife and daughter found him passed out on the kitchen floor. They made him go to rehab. Playing Gator was like looking in a mirror. He poured all his pain and struggle into the character. The performance was so incredible that the Cannes Film Festival created a special Best Supporting Actor award just to honor him. It was a turning point. He was finally sober, and his career was about to explode. But the fight was far from over. His biggest role was just around the corner, and it would come from a director who would force audiences to confront race in a very uncomfortable way. The Tarantino connection. After Jungle Fever, Jackson's phone started ringing. He got a small but memorable part in Jurassic Park. Then, a young director named Quentin Tarantino sent him a script. The script was for Pulp Fiction, and the part of Jules Winfield was written specifically for him. Tarantino had seen him in another movie and knew he was perfect for the role. Jules was smart, funny, philosophical, and dangerous. He was not a stereotype. He was one of the most original characters ever written. The movie was a massive hit and made Jackson a global star. It also started a long and important partnership between him and Tarantino. Jackson would go on to star in many of Tarantino's films, including Jackie Brown, Django Unchained, and The Hateful Eight. These movies were famous for their sharp dialogue, cool style, and controversial use of racial slurs, particularly the N-word. Many people criticized Tarantino, a white director, for using the word so frequently in his scripts. But Jackson has always defended him. He has said that the language is authentic to the characters and the worlds they live in. In Django Unchained, a film about slavery, he argued that it would be dishonest not to use the word. He said that people who are more upset about hearing the word than they are about the horrors of slavery are missing the point. For Jackson, working with Tarantino was a way to explore complex themes of race and violence head-on. He was not afraid of making audiences uncomfortable. He had been uncomfortable his whole life. He felt that these films started important conversations. They were not trying to hide the ugly parts of history or human nature. They were putting them on screen for everyone to see and talk about. His defense of Tarantino shows how Jackson approaches his work. He is not just an actor saying lines. He is an artist who thinks deeply about the stories he is telling and the impact they will have. This thoughtful approach has also led him to speak out on other sensitive issues within the black acting community, sometimes causing controversy himself. A controversial opinion. As Jackson became more established, he started to notice a trend in Hollywood. More and more black British actors were being cast in major American roles, especially roles that were about the African American experience. Daniel Kaluuya played the lead in the horror film Get Out, which was about race in America. David Oyelowo played Martin Luther King Jr. in the movie Selma. In an interview, Jackson questioned whether a British actor could truly understand the experience of growing up black in America. He wondered what Get Out would have been like with an American actor who grew up with the specific fears and experiences that the movie explored. He said that British actors are often cheaper to hire and are classically trained, which gives them an advantage. His comments caused a huge debate. Some people agreed with him, saying that the lived experience of an African American actor brings a certain truth to these roles. Others, including some black British actors, were hurt and offended. They argued that acting is about imagination and empathy, and that a good actor can play any role. Actor John Boyega pointed out that Jackson himself had played roles that were outside his own experience. Jackson later clarified his comments. He said he was not trying to start a fight between black actors. He was trying to point out how the Hollywood system works. He felt that the system often pits black actors against each other for a limited number of roles. He was questioning the motivations of the casting directors and producers, not the talent of the actors. This controversy showed another side of Jackson's fight. He was not just concerned with how white Hollywood treated black actors. He was also thinking about the complex issues within the black community itself. He was willing to ask tough questions, even if it made him unpopular. His goal was always to open up a conversation about how to create more opportunities and more authentic stories for all black artists. He felt Hollywood was often taking the easy way out, especially when it came to telling stories about racism. Hollywood's fear of the present. Samuel L. Jackson has noticed another strange thing about Hollywood. The industry is willing to make movies about racism, but only if it happened a long time ago. He pointed to the movie 12 Years a Slave, which won the Oscar for Best Picture. It's a powerful and important film about the brutality of slavery. But Jackson pointed out that at the same time, another movie called Fruitvale Station came out. Fruitvale Station was about the true story of Oscar Grant, a young black man who was killed by a police officer in 2009. It was a story about racism happening right now. But that movie did not get the same level of attention or awards as 12 Years a Slave. Jackson believes this is because Hollywood is afraid to deal with modern-day racism. He thinks that stories about slavery or the civil rights movement of the 1960s are safer. They allow audiences to feel bad about what happened in the past and feel good about how much things have supposedly changed. But movies about police brutality or systemic racism today make people uncomfortable. They force audiences to look at the world around them and admit that the problems are not all in the past. Jackson believes that Hollywood has a responsibility to tell these modern stories. He feels that the industry has a huge influence on how people see the world, and it is avoiding its duty. This is part of his larger critique of the system. It's not just about getting more roles for black actors. It's about what kind of roles they are getting and what kind of stories are being told. He wants to see more movies that show the full range of the black experience, not just the pain of the past. He wants stories that are honest about the challenges black people face in the present. This desire for honesty is what drives him. It is why he corrected the reporter who mistook him for Lawrence Fishburne. It is why he shared his story of being profiled by the police. And it is why he is not afraid to speak his mind, no matter who he might offend. For him, the silence is more dangerous than the truth. The power of a single word. Perhaps nothing shows Jackson's fearless approach to his work more than his relationship with the word motherfucker. It has become his signature. People expect it, they cheer for it, and it has become a part of his legend. But for him, it is more than just a curse word. It goes back to his childhood. Growing up with a stutter, he was often quiet and afraid to speak. He discovered that the word motherfucker was a kind of anchor. Saying it with force and conviction helped him get through his lines without stuttering. It became a tool for him, a way to unlock his fluency and power. It was a word that helped him find his voice when he thought he had lost it. So when he uses it in movies, it's not just for shock value. It's a connection to his own personal struggle and triumph. It represents his ability to overcome obstacles, to turn a weakness into a strength. It's a word that is both aggressive and, for him, therapeutic. It embodies the fighting spirit that has defined his entire life, from the segregated streets of Chattanooga to the biggest movie sets in the world. When fans ask him to say it, they are not just asking for a line from a movie. They are asking for a piece of his power, his confidence, his refusal to be silenced. The word has become a symbol of his entire journey. A boy who could barely speak grew up to be a man whose voice is recognized all over the world. A man who was told to be quiet learned to speak his truth as loudly as possible. A legacy beyond the screen. At an age when many actors are slowing down, Samuel L. Jackson is busier than ever. He is a key part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Nick Fury, a powerful leader who brings heroes together. This role is important because it places a black man in a position of ultimate authority in the biggest movie franchise in history. It provides a powerful image for millions of young fans around the world. He has used his fame and his money to support causes he believes in. He and his wife LaTanya have their own charitable foundation that supports education and the arts. He has been a vocal supporter of political candidates and has worked to encourage people, especially young people and people of color, to vote. He understands that the fight for justice does not end on the movie screen. It happens in communities, in schools, and at the ballot box. Looking back at his long career, you can see a clear line connecting the young activist at Morehouse to the global superstar he is today. He never lost that fire. He never forgot where he came from. He has channeled his anger and his passion into his art and his activism. He has broken down barriers, challenged stereotypes, and forced uncomfortable conversations. He opened up about the racism he faced, not because he wanted pity, but because he wanted change. He wanted young actors coming up behind him to know that the fight is real, but that it is possible to win. He showed that you can be successful in Hollywood without losing your soul, without silencing your voice. Samuel L. Jackson's story is more than just a list of hit movies. It is a story of resilience, courage, and unwavering honesty. He faced down his personal demons of addiction and a childhood stutter. He stood up to systemic racism, from the police on the street to the executives in the boardroom. He used his platform to speak truth to power, reminding everyone that even in the land of make-believe, the fight for equality is very, very real.